Hello, hello, and welcome to the video lecture series brought to you by St. Andrews Institute of Technology and Management. And we are discussing the subject called Programming for Problem Solving. And today we are going to talk some more about the data types in C language. So let's move ahead. Now, yesterday we have seen how the data types or what are the basic data types and how they looks like in C. Today we are going to go or dive in detail. So let's move ahead. Now, various quantities such as constants, variable, etc. occurring in C program must have a type associated with them. And there can be only one type associated with them. Now, example of that is like in the first lecture, we have seen the hands-on experience of what a C application looks like, and there we have initialized a variable named as A, which is of type integer. So compiler at the time of compilation do knows that the type of data I am dealing with is of integer type. Okay. Now, there cannot be two types associated with a single constant or variable because a single data point cannot be a character and a string at the same time, or cannot be a float or an integer at the same time. So these things do not exist. Okay, so in C also, there cannot be two associations of data types to a single entity. Now, C supports a very large number of data types. The types of an entity establish the following information about it, that is, its meaning, the constraints applicable to it, that is, if I define a particular variable as character, then all the constraint, all the rules that are being applied for a character data point will be applied to that variable also. Okay, it's like if you're a resident of Pakistan, or if you're a resident of, let's say, Nepal or any other neighboring country other than India, then the rules of that particular country will apply to you and not of the India. Okay, and it also defines the possible value of the entity. It doesn't mean that it will define the actual value of the entity, but it will give you some idea of what kind of value it is going to be stored. So, like if I say, let's say there is a variable called x and it is of type character, that is the keyword char will define it. So the first thing that comes to your mind is okay. The data type must be any alphabet between A to Z and not an integer value or anything else. That is the first thing that will come to your mind. Okay, and the function that can be used for it. So there's few of the functions. Sorry, there are few of the functions that are particularly defined for a particular data types, or specifically defined for particular data types. So those functions are now eligible for a variable which is holding the data of a specific data type. Okay, so all the functions that are applicable for an integer variable are now enabled or are actually legal to be used while dealing with an integer variable. The rules or the functions that are used for character data types cannot be applied on integer data types. At least exclusively the character functions, at least. Okay, I think you have got the point. Now, a data type is defined as a finite set of values along with set of rules for permissible operation. I think we have covered that already. Now, the basic data types the C support is integer. We have already seen that. The floating point, that is your numerics with decimal values. Okay, and last but not the least, the characters. That is your alphabets A, B, C, and up to Z. Okay, and then comes the structured data types. The structured data types are actually the data types which are not completely defined by the system itself. those data types are actually defined, partially actually defined by you, that is the user, and partially being defined by the language itself. So few of the rules are already there, but the rest of them are left up to the user to make them. Okay, I think you people have got the point. If you haven't, just think like, if you're dealing with a number, let's say 10, then all the rules, apart from initializing the variable of type integer with the value 10, you cannot do anything. You cannot define anything for it. Okay, so that is the basic data type. But let's say a structured data type, let's say example is arrays. Now array is collection of similar things. Okay, let's say the number from 1 to 10, if you want to store them and you want to identify them with a single variable, then that variable will be called as an array, and that structure that is used to store whole of those numbers from 1 to 10 is called an array. Now you chose actually what is the total length of numbers that are to be stored, because you chose that number from 1 to 10 are I am going to store only from 1 to 10, not from 1 to 11 or 1 to 15. So few of the rules are already there that are being defined inside the compiler, but the rest of them are actually up to the user itself. So few of the structured data types being listed in here are arrays and strings. You will see them shortly in the second unit, and then the structures and unions, you will see them in the last unit, and they are the most powerful type of data structures available and have the real world applications. Okay, now we have few more. uh, Next one is your enumerated data types, and then the pointer data types. I'll not be able to explain to you what are the pointer data types now at this point, but surely, well, when we will come to unit 3, you will be able to understand what I'm talking about. At this point, I can only tell you that the pointer data types are actually not used to hold the values, but to use the address of the values in the variable itself. So the data type for an address doesn't make sense, but it actually signifies that the address a particular variable is holding, at that particular address, the type of data will be the data type of the pointer itself. Okay, so let's say x is holding the address for an integer variable. Okay, so x will have a data type called int, and x is not actually holding the integer data, it is actually holding the address of that memory location, or the memory location where that particular data is stored. So the data type of the pointer, where x is the pointer now, so data type of the pointer actually is the type of data that is being stored, which is being pointed out to the address by the variable itself. And last but not the least, we have the void data type. It means nothing. And it is quite useful. You will see to it that we use void from time to time, because in few of the functions, in few of the applications, it is absolutely necessary to specify that we are going to get nothing out of something. It is absolutely necessary because we have this concept of garbage value in our programming languages. So instead of having those garbage values, which could be anything, it is good to know that we are going to get nothing. So in that way, we'll be sure that we are going to get nothing. Otherwise, if we are going to get a garbage value, we don't know how our application will respond to that. Sometimes it is going to respond to that if that garbage value is actually matches the return data type or the type of data it is expecting, and sometimes your application is going to crash because it is not going to accept the data type of the garbage value. Okay, so it's like uh, the delivery boy is going to deliver you something and you don't know what he is going to deliver you. So it's going to be a surprise for you. But if you know that you haven't placed any order or the delivery boy is not going to come, then in that case, you're absolutely sure what to do in that particular time or how to deal with that situation. That is, no one is going to come to deliver something to you. Instead, it will be stunned by the delivery boy at your gate. Okay, so I think you have got the point of what is the void data type with the analogy of the delivery boy. So let's move ahead. We have already seen these examples. Actually, in the first lecture, I have already shown you in the code how to declare a particular variable. So all you have to do is just type the data type and then a space and then name of the variable. And if you want to initialize the variable with a value, you can do that by assignment operator, that is equal to not equal to but assignment operator, and at the end you'll place a semicolon. Okay, so I think you have got the idea. Now we have few examples here. You can see the valid names of the variables. We have discussed the rules of making the or constructing the valid variable names in the last lecture. So you can start with underscore. It could be alphanumeric, but there cannot be any special characters, and it cannot be start with a numeric itself. So int 2 will not make any sense because this is a value itself. Int a b will have a space, while white spaces are not allowed in the names. And then int long, this is also not permissible because integer is a data type, and soon you will see that long is also an integer type. So that is also not permissible. So let's move ahead. Now types of variables in C. So this is not about what is the data type of the variable, it is about the scope of the variables. Okay, and where they are actually used. By scope I mean the jurisdiction. You must have known to the word or familiar with the word called jurisdiction. Jurisdiction is like the police station. Every police station has an area of jurisdiction. Outside it, it is not authorized to operate, or at least it has to take the permission of some higher authority. So that is somewhat the analogy to make you understand what the scope is. So scope is like jurisdiction. Now, the types of variable in C are the local variables, the global variables, the static variables, the automatic variables, and external variables. So we'll be dealing with local and global mostly, and it is rare to see, very rare to see the static, automatic, and external variables. Though you will see uh, quite a few examples of static, but not the local and global itself. Okay. So let's see a local variable. So local variable that is declared inside a function or a block is called a local variable. Let me tell you this. It must be declared at the start of the block. Like we have declared a function. Now do not get confused. What is this function? How? What is this void and all that? Don't get into it. We'll discuss the declaration of the function or what are the functions in detail. I think you people now know what are the function at least because we have declared the main function. Okay, so this is the name of the function. Function is a block of code usually or very frankly which performs a specific task and nothing else. Okay, so function have a body inside those curly braces, and inside that body you will see I have declared a variable of type integer of name x and with a value of 10. So this is a local variable. This variable x has a scope inside this function also, that is its jurisdiction is inside this, that is people do know or the other lines of code do the variable x inside these curly braces only. If you came out of this function, the x is not known to anybody, is actually alien to the rest of the code. Okay, it will make more sense when got to the functions. Now just remember that this, because this variable is initialized and declared inside this function, So it can live only inside the boundary walls created by this function. And the boundary walls are these curly braces. That is it. Now next is your global variable. A variable that is declared outside the function block is called a global variable. And any function can change the value of the global variable. It's available to all the functions. So any function or any variable that is declared outside any specific function is actually known to everybody. So that is why the word global is associated with it. So it is known to everybody. It has jurisdiction over the whole code. That is why it has been named as global itself. Okay? These are very powerful variables. And it must be declared at the start of the block itself. So int value equal to 20 void function. See, I have initialized and declared and initialized a variable called value, and it is of type integer and it has a value 20 associated with it, but you must keep in mind that this is actually outside of this function. So this variable named as value is known to the rest of the code and also by this function. So this value is actually known inside these walls, but this x is not known outside these walls, these two curly braces. Okay, so I think you must have got the idea of what is a global variable and what is a local variable. But still, if you use this value inside this, it may change its value. It may. I'm not saying that necessarily. That is a shortcoming of global variable, and we will going to soon rectify that. And that has been rectified by the use of static variables. A variable that is declared with static keyword is called a static variable. So first of all, if you want to declare a static variable, you have to use the keyword static before mentioning the data type itself. Okay, like here in this line, I have declared a static variable called y, which is of type integer, signifying by this keyword int, and has a value 10. But I have also declared it as static, and that actually preceded all the other signature or the rest of the signature. So static must come at the beginning of all the signatures. And what's good about is it retain its value between multiple calls. So basically, it is, so we are going to say, or we are I want you to make understand that, or to understand that this static variable, whether it is being used as many times as you want or by any other function or a helping function, the value of this static variable cannot be changed once it has been specified. So this is the initial definition. We'll talk more about static variable later on when we'll encounter them. So I've shown you here one an example. So x is a common variable but a global variable. Okay, not global but local variable, local to this function, but has a value x equal to 10, and we have variable y which also has a value of 10, and then we incremented the value of x by 1 and y by 1, and then we try to print the values of x and y. Okay, so you see that the value of x is actually incremented by 1 when you're going to print it, but the value of y is still static, that is equal to 10. So that is the beauty. These are types of constants in some, let's say, other way, if you want to say that. Now, uh, okay, we are done with all these. I think we have discussed enough. Okay, one thing left is the range of the data types. Okay, now range and memory size. So don't worry about these ranges about the characters. You only have to remember the memory size. Memory size in terms of character, signed character, unsigned characters is 1 byte, 1 byte, 1 byte. That means every time you want to declare a variable and initialize a variable of type character, all it takes is 1 byte of memory by the compiler to initialize it. or it will assign only 1 byte of memory for that particular variable. Okay, and then we have short. Short is a type of integer value, but that is uh, its range is little less, you can say that. And then we have integer. As you know that 2 bytes of memory is allocated for the initialization of an integer variable, and its range is important here now, because the maximum value of an integer that you can assign to integer variable is 32767, that is 32,767 to minus 32,768. So you must be cautious that if you want to initialize a variable of type numeric, I would say, in numeric it will be floating points and integers or both of them. If you want to initialize a variable of type numeric with a value greater than 32767 or less than minus 32,768, so you must be cautious, because the upper and lower threshold of int variable or integer variable is 32,767 to minus 32,768 only. Okay, and for unsigned, you can shift this range to the positive side of your scale, that is 0 to 65,535. If you want to go outside the range of an integer, that is after 32767 on the positive side, say, you can use the data type called long int, and the compiler will assign 4 bytes of memory location after initialization of this variable of time long int. So these are not two types of data. The number is still an integer, but we have increased the range of the integer by using a signature called long. Okay, because we have allocated more memory for it, so its range has automatically increased because we can store more data. Okay, so if you want to use a large number, if you want to initialize a variable with a very large number, more than at least from the upper limits of an int variable, you can always use the long int, and then there is a short int, not rare admissibly used. Then we have float with 4 bytes of memory allocated for it. Okay, and it has its limitations, the upper and lower limit. Then we have double, which has double the memory associated with it, and if the memory is doubled, then obviously the total range will also get doubled. And then the long double, with the total memory associated with it is 10 bytes, which again exceeds the range of the double variable, double data type. So I'm going to end this lecture here now, and tomorrow we're going to discuss about the expression, and we're going to see a type of expressions and operators and use it in a code. Thank you.